We use NTFS permissions to control access to our folders and the files within. In this nugget, we're going to jump right into the virtual lab and learn how to configure both basic and advanced permission sets, as well as take advantage of inheritance to simplify the process, and we'll look at how to understand effective permissions. Let's do it. We're going to pick up where we left off in our previous nugget, configure shares. We have the same 3-machine lab here. We have our file server FS nug, which contains all the data for our organization, and we have some shares that are exposing that data to the network. We also have client nug. We're going to use this machine to test from so we can log in with some sample user accounts and test their access to our data. And of course, we have DC nug here, which is hosting the nuggetlab.com domain. So let's begin on our file server here by pasting the password in and logging in as the domain administrator. Let's begin by launching File Explorer down there from the taskbar, and let's hit this PC on the left. Notice we have plenty of volumes to work with. We're going to be working with our U volume here, in which we have a company directory. Inside of that company directory, we have more directories. We have a docs directory filled with some docs, we have a marketing directory filled with some docs, and we have a sales directory filled with more docs. Now, as far as shares go, we have a share set up on this company directory. In fact, let's fire up Server Manager and just take a quick peek at what we've got as far as shares go. As soon as Server Manager loads up, we'll get the File and Storage Services item over here on the left. Let's go ahead and choose that and choose shares from there. Now, I've reconfigured our shares. I've taken our software and VM shares and turned them into hidden shares so they will no longer show up when users browse the network. I've also removed all share level permissions. In fact, if we right click on company, for instance, head into properties and go into permissions, notice everyone is now full control. So we've taken share permissions out of the picture. We're going to be working entirely with NTFS permissions, which is going to be the recommended way of doing things in most environments today. It greatly simplifies security management. All right, let's minimize Server Manager. Let's head back into File Explorer, and let's start here at the very top, at the volume level. This is where inheritance begins, and this is what can really help simplify permissions going down through those folders and files. Let's right-click on the U volume and head up to Properties and over to the Security tab. Now, right away here, we've got a couple of ways of doing things. We have this Edit button. This is for very simple, basic permissions. So we can add users in here, give them permissions or deny them permissions, and we're good. Now, this is good, again, if you only need basic permission sets and you don't need to deal with inheritance or any advanced permission sets. So we're going to cancel out of this, and let's hit the Advanced button down here, which is going to pop us in to the Advanced Security Settings dialog. And here is what we're interested in right here, NTFS permissions. Now, here's how NTFS security works. Every single object, whether it's a volume, a folder, or a file, anything that can be assigned permissions, has what's known as an access control list, an ACL or ACL for short. So we can think of this right here as our ACL. An ACL consists of access control entries, ACEs. So each one of these is an access control entry. That entry consists of the principal's security identifier, known as a SID. So each one of these is a principal, right? A principal can be a user, it can be a group, it can be a machine, it can be a system account, it can be a service, anything that can be assigned a permission. Now, an important thing to note is these ACLs are actually associated and attached to the resource, not attached to the principal. And that's important in why when we move a file from volume to volume or file server to file server, its permissions go with it. In fact, you can even move a file from NTFS to REFS because they use the same security system, and it will retain its ACL. So the access control list for our U volume here contains 4 entries. We have one for local administrators, for the local system account, for all authenticated users, and for all local users here on FSNUG. Notice that it says inherited from none. That's because this is the very top of the inheritance chain. And what that means is if we were to go into that U volume, and let's take our company directory, for instance, right-click on it, go into Properties, hit the Security tab there, hit Advanced. Notice that this inherited from says the volume name. So these permissions all came from this U volume. And if anything we were to change up in the U volume would flow down here into the company directory as well as all the other directories inside of this volume. And inheritance is great because it allows us to simplify the process of applying permissions to child objects. Without inheritance, we'd probably need a full-time person managing security all day long for all of our files and folders. Now let's add an ACE into the ACL for our company directory here. We're going to hit the Add button, and here is the dialog here for managing permissions. Let's select a principal here, and let's just grab the human group. We have our Star Wars characters and groups ready to go in Active Directory. I'll just hit check names there to resolve it. Perfect, and hit OK. Now here's what we can do. We can specify if we want to allow or deny. Remember, deny always overrides allow permissions. And now we can also specify what this is going to apply to. Just this folder, are we going to use inheritance here and apply it to everything beneath this folder, and just the subfolders within and down the line. And off the bat here, we get just a basic permission set. And what these are, really, each one of these is a collection of the more advanced granular permission sets that we can see by clicking Show Advanced Permissions. Here they are. Now, you can easily flip back and forth between these. In fact, you can even see what permissions map to what permissions. For example, for basic permissions, let's just check read. Now we flip over to advanced permissions, and we can see that read consists of list folder, read attributes, and extended attributes, and read permissions. If we head back here and let's say we want to take a look at just write, we can check write, head over to show advanced permissions, and write gives them the ability to create files, folders, and write attributes and extended attributes. If for some reason, let's say we wanted to give them read and write, but we also wanted to give them the ability to delete subfolders and files. Now if we head back, they have special permissions. So they have the prepackaged read and write, and then that special permission that we give out to it. That's all this is, and that's why it's grayed out, because it's really just a combination of things that aren't a basic permission. Now, most of these are pretty straightforward. A few of them aren't, so let's go over them. Full control will obviously give them access to all of these permissions. Traverse folder means we're going to allow or deny anybody in the human group the ability to drill down through the subfolders in this folder, even if they don't have access to them, because they may have a file down there that they do have access to. List folder means they can view all the contents in this folder, as well as open and read data inside of the files in this folder. All the attribute ones are pretty straightforward. Read and write attributes. These are attributes of a file, such as the read-only flag. We also have create files in this folder, or write data to the files in this folder. We also have create folders in here, as well as modify data. And then delete subfolders and files, pretty straightforward. Delete is specifically for this directory that we're setting permissions on. And then we've also got ones for changing permissions here, reading and modifying permissions, as well as taking ownership of this directory. This looks like a pretty good permission set for our human group. This will give them a fair amount of power inside of our company directory. Now notice this checkbox here. If we check this, it's only going to apply these permissions to the objects within and no deeper. So for example, if we were to apply this against our company directory, it's only going to set these permissions on the 3 directories within. And again, you can use the applies to up here as well to control what this permission set applies to. So if we choose this folder only, it's going to gray this one out, obviously, and then just apply permissions to this folder. We're going to let inheritance fly, though, so let's go ahead and choose this one, and we will leave that unchecked and hit OK. And there is our new access control entry. Notice that this wasn't inherited from anything. It was an explicit permission that we defined on our company directory. Now, any directories below this will inherit not only these 4, but also this one, and it'll show us as well where it was inherited from. In fact, if we were to hit the apply button here and now head back to our directory, let's go into our company directory, and let's just take our docs directory, for instance, give that a right click, head down to properties, over to security, down to the advanced button, and look at this, see? So now any directory underneath company inherited, and it shows us where that inheritance came from. Now, we can also turn that off. Let's head back to our advanced security settings here for our company directory. That's what this disable inheritance button is all about. If we click on this, we have 2 choices here. We can either convert all of the existing inherited permissions, so on our company directory that would be these 4, to explicit permissions, and that would, if we were to click that button, it would change all of these to none. Or we could just start with a clean slate here and just remove all of the inherited permissions. Again, this would leave our explicit permissions alone, but it would remove all 4 of those. All right, so we're good here with our company directory. Let's go ahead and hit OK and OK again. Let's go into it again here, and now let's set up permissions here on, how about marketing and sales? We'll give everybody access to docs there. But let's go into marketing, go into the properties here, into security, and hit advanced. So at this point, we could add in more entries in here, which will be the starting point for the inheritance from this directory down through it. But what we're going to do here is deny permission. Let's pick on Vader again, because Vader shouldn't have access to marketing or sales. We'll give him access to the docs and anything within the company directory. Marketing, sales, we probably want to keep him out of those. So let's go ahead and hit the add button here. Let's select our principal, and I'm just going to start typing in D-A-R-T there, hit check names, and there we go. We've got 2 Darths. Let's go ahead and choose Vader there. Hit OK and hit OK. And now let's change allow to deny for this folder and anything inside of it. And we're going to deny everything. So by choosing full control here, we're denying every single permission to Vader for this directory and below it. And we'll go ahead and hit OK here, and there it is. Now, Darth Vader has been denied all access to marketing. Let's do the same thing for sales here, and just letting us know you chose deny here, and that takes precedence over allow. So yep, we know, we're good. Let's do the same thing down here for sales. Let's head up to that security tab, down to the advanced button, and let's hit add. And once again here, let's go ahead and select our principal, and let's browse for Vader. Now this time, instead of just denying him everything, let's still give him the ability to read. So what we're going to do is drop down allow and choose deny. He already has read access from our human group, right? Because that inheritance is flowing down into here. But let's go to advanced permissions here. Let's deny everything and then just uncheck read attributes, list folder, read extended, and read permissions. That's the equivalent of read access. So we're going to deny everything else and hit OK and hit OK. And choose yes. Again, just letting us know deny is powerful. And we're good here, so let's go ahead and hit OK again. Now, before we test this all out, I want to show you a little something here called effective access. This is a very powerful and important tool when you're trying to understand what user has access to what, especially because our users can belong to multiple groups. Those groups can get assigned permissions, our user can get assigned permissions, and they can get permissions from all over the place, add inheritance into the mix, and it's really difficult to understand exactly what a user has permission to. That's called their effective permissions, the combination of all their allow and deny permissions from all the different sources that they can be assigned it from. And we can access this in that same area we were. In fact, let's start off with the marketing directory here. Let's go into properties, go into security, go into advanced, and the last tab here is effective access. Let's go ahead and browse to Vader here. So we'll type in Darth again, hit check names, choose Vader, hit OK, hit OK. And now we can also include his group membership, which we're going to want to do here. So we're going to add in that group membership, human. There it is. And now that is selected since we chose it. Now, if we choose View Effective Access, I'm going to maximize this. This will show us what Vader has access to. And remember, for our marketing directory here, we flat out denied everything full control. So that's why you see a bunch of X's here. Now, let's compare that to our sales directory. Let's head down here, head into properties again, head into security, advanced, effective access. I'll maximize this. Select our user here once again. Type in Darth, hit check names. There's Vader. And then let's also add in his group membership here. So we'll add in the human group membership, check names, resolve it, hit OK. And now if we view effective access, look at this. See that? He does have read access because he's getting that through his group membership. And we denied all these other permissions specifically on his account. This is such an invaluable tool for testing and troubleshooting, especially when you get a call from a user that says, hey, I can't access this file, and I should be able to access this file. Now we can run effective access there on that file and figure out why. So, great tool. All right, let's test out what we've done. Let's head over to Client Nug, and let's start by logging in as somebody in the human group that isn't Vader. How about Skywalker? So we'll log in as loop.skywalker here, standard lab password that we've been using, and log in. All right, let's head down to File Explorer here, and let's browse right over to our FS Nug machine. There's all of our shares. Let's go into that company share. Now, as Luke, we should be able to, and even as Darth here at this point, we should be able to create folders and create files here in the root of the company directory. We can. As Luke here, we should also be able to do that inside of our marketing directory. And look at that, we can. We can come in here and make files all day long. Vader won't be able to do that. And if we head back a level, the only thing we won't be able to do as the human group is set up permissions on these existing directories. We will be able to set permissions on our new folder and our new document here because we're the owner. But let's try to change permissions on that marketing directory. Right? Let's go into properties, over to security, down to advanced, and let's try to help Dad out here by removing his deny entry. If we hit OK, it's going to say, no, sorry, access is denied. All right, so we set this one up accordingly. Everything looks good as far as Luke goes. Let's now log in as Vader and see what we get. So I'm going to go ahead and log out. Choose other user, and let's log in as Darth.Vader using our standard lab password here. Once again, let's launch File Explorer. And up in the address bar here, let's browse right over to FS Nug. There's our company share. Notice something missing in here. Marketing, it's not in here. How come? Access-based enumeration. Yeah, we turned that on for our company share, and that's why we don't see it, because Vader does not have at least read access to that directory, so it doesn't even show up. Now, we can go into sales. Remember, we gave him read directory in here, so we can read things, but if we try to create a file inside of here, let's create a text document, it's going to say, nope, you need permission to perform that action. So we're not going to be able to create anything in here because Vader can only read out of this directory. So that's NTFS permissions. Just remember, use inheritance to your advantage. Start at the top, work your way down, and add explicit permissions as you go, because those will get picked up in the inheritance chain. In the CBT Nugget, we learned how to configure NTFS permissions to control access to our network resources. We looked at things such as basic and advanced permission sets, inheritance, and effective permissions. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.